Whenever dinosaurs are talked about, most people usually think of just one. Of course, it's the gigantic T-Rex that we often see in movies. But in reality, the story of the creatures that once ruled the world is even more unique and much broader. For those who don't know, there are living creatures today that are direct relatives of dinosaurs. One of them is the bee hummingbird, and it is the smallest bird in the world. It's so light that you can barely feel it when it lands. In fact, that's not all. Because scientists also consider that modern birds today are the remaining living relatives of dinosaurs that survived after the massive extinction event millions of years ago. But if we have the smallest relative of the dinosaur, it's only natural to ask how big were the largest dinosaurs that ever lived on Earth. And this is where it begins, a very interesting mystery. Until now, paleontologists still haven't reached a proper agreement on which is truly the largest dinosaur in history, because every new fossil that is unearthed can change the records that have long been believed. But before we take a look at these giants, we first need to understand how they became different from the animals we see today. At present, the blue whale is the largest animal living on the planet. It can reach over 100 feet in length and weigh more than 100 tons. But it lives in the ocean, where the water helps support its massive body. However, it's a different story when it comes to living on land. If we base it on the animals that walk on land today, elephants are considered the largest. But if we go back more than 60 million years ago, they would seem like small creatures compared to some of the dinosaurs that once roamed the planet. Dinosaurs were not all the same size. Some were almost as small as chickens, while others were even bigger than many houses stacked on top of each other. According to studies, dinosaurs lived for a very long period of time that covered the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. During those millions of years, their sizes, shapes, and ways of living also gradually changed. It's also noticeable that the biggest dinosaurs were not the most dangerous ones. In fact, most of the true giants were herbivores or plant eaters. Instead of hunting, they spent their lives eating huge amounts of plants to support their massive bodies. But how do scientists know how big a dinosaur was if there are no living specimens to study? This is one of the most difficult parts of paleontology. It's very rare to find a complete skeleton. Most of the time, only a few bones are discovered. Many more dinosaur remains may have been completely destroyed by time before humans could even find them. Because of this, researchers need to use advanced technology to create a clearer picture of these ancient giants. With the help of three-dimensional scanning, computer modeling, and modern anatomical studies, scientists are gradually reconstructing the possible appearance, weight, and size of the dinosaurs that once ruled the Earth. And even though they still can't give a 100% definite answer as to which one is truly the largest of all, there are already a few candidates that repeatedly appear in scientific studies. That's why in this video, that's what we're going to find out. But before we start, don't forget to like this video. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. Number 5, Sauroposeidon. If height is the measure of being a giant, there are only a few dinosaurs that can compete with this one. Imagine a creature that can reach the height of a 6-story building without even jumping or climbing. That's how massive Sauroposeidon is. It's one of the tallest dinosaurs ever discovered by scientists. And what's interesting is that they didn't immediately understand what they had unearthed. In 1994, fossils were found in Oklahoma, in the United States. These bones were so huge that at first it wasn't immediately believed that they came from an animal. Some even thought that these were just parts of ancient trees that had turned to stone over time. But when paleontologists examined them more closely after a few years, a surprising truth was revealed. Those bones turned out to be part of the neck of a gigantic sauropod dinosaur, and this is where Sauroposeidon began to be recognized. Its name comes from a Greek word, which refers to lizard and to Poseidon, the god of the sea in ancient Greek mythology. A name that truly fits a creature that seems like a legend. Based on the fossils that were found, its total length is estimated to be around 89 to 112 feet. Its shoulders could even be taller than a two-story house. But what is truly impressive is its neck. According to some scientific estimates, its head and neck could reach more than 50 feet from the ground. Because of this, Sauroposeidon is among the tallest animals to ever walk the earth. Even so, there is a common misconception often seen in old illustrations. In the past, sauropods were depicted with their necks raised straight up like a giraffe. But according to many modern studies, it is possible that they more often held their necks horizontally or only slightly raised. This is more practical for their bodies and less taxing on their circulatory system. Even so, their necks were still long enough to reach leaves that most other herbivores at that time couldn't reach. Another surprising detail is the design of their bodies. Many scientists believe that they had a system of air sacs, similar to those found in modern birds. These spaces inside the body and some bones help make them lighter than most people think. In other words, even though they were huge, they weren't made up of solid flesh and bone from head to tail. Because of this, it became more possible for them to carry their massive body size every day. Despite their size, they weren't predators. Sauroposeidon was a herbivore that spent almost their entire day searching for and eating plants. It is estimated that a massive amount of vegetation was needed each day to maintain its body's energy. It likely roamed ancient forests, areas near rivers, swamps, and coastlines that were once abundant with large plants. And because of its size, only a few predators had the courage to attack a fully grown adult Sauroposeidon. But the situation was different for the young members of their species. Just like many large animals today, it is believed that the younger Sauroposeidon were often the targets of carnivorous dinosaurs looking for easier prey. Today, despite everything we've learned, there are still many mysteries surrounding this creature, and its fossil record is still incomplete. That's why we still don't know the details about its movement, speed, and exact weight. But one thing is clear. If we happened to live during its time and saw it walking in the distance, we probably wouldn't immediately think it was an animal. We'd be more likely to mistake it for a moving mountain. But even though Sauroposeidon is impressively large, our list doesn't end here, because the next giant is even longer. It's almost as long as two city buses joined together. Number 4, Dreadnoughtus.
Number 4,
If the previous dinosaur was known for its extremely long neck, the next one is a true giant when it comes to weight and strength. In fact, its name itself sounds like a warning, Dreadnoughtus. It means fears nothing. And if you see its size in person, you'll immediately understand why scientists gave it that name. Its fossils were discovered in Patagonia, Argentina, a region long known for unearthing some of the largest dinosaurs that ever lived on the planet. When the research team found its remains, they immediately noticed that the preservation of the skeleton was unusual. It wasn't just a few pieces of bone. A large part of its body was recovered, making it one of the most complete giant Titanosaur fossils discovered to date. Based on studies, its body reached approximately 85 feet in length. Its neck reached almost 36 feet, while its tail was almost as long as a small bus. But there's an even more surprising detail. Many paleontologists believe that the individual that was found was not yet a fully grown adult when it died. In other words, the Dreadnoughtus could have grown even bigger if it had lived longer. How did they know that? Scientists examined the structure of its bones. There are parts of the skeleton that show signs of ongoing growth. Some of the bones had not yet fully fused. This is a characteristic commonly seen in young animals that are still growing. It's like a teenager who hasn't reached their final height yet. So even though the specimen that was found was already very large, there's a possibility that it wasn't yet the maximum size this species could reach. Because of the size of the fossils and the challenging location, it took several years before all of its remains could finally be excavated. It was a very lengthy operation that required meticulous work to avoid damaging the important parts of the skeleton. After the excavation, the fossils were brought to laboratories for further analysis. This is where one of the biggest debates in modern paleontology began. How heavy was Dreadnoughtus really? Some early estimates said it could weigh almost 60 metric tons, but later on, other researchers questioned that number. Some said it was lighter, while others said it was heavier. Over the years, different scientific studies have given varying results. More recent analyses usually put its weight at around 48 to 49 metric tons. Whatever the exact number is, one thing is not disputed. It is one of the heaviest animals to ever walk the earth. To give us an idea of its size, imagine the combined weight of several African elephants. That's roughly the kind of weight we're talking about. But despite its terrifying size, it was not a fierce predator. Like other large titanosaurs, Dreadnoughtus was a herbivore. It spent the whole day traveling through ancient forests while eating a huge amount of plants to support its massive body. Its long neck allowed it to reach across a wide area of its habitat. Its neck also allowed it to reach wide areas. And one of the reasons why this fossil is important is because it helps scientists better understand how the bodies of giant sauropods work. By studying its bones, they are able to learn more about how strong the skeletons of giant dinosaurs were, how they breathed, how high the blood pressure needed to be for blood to reach their heads, and how much food they needed each day. There is another mystery surrounding their deaths. Based on the condition of the fossils, some scientists believe that they may have died in a sudden environmental disaster. It is possible that a powerful flood quickly buried their bodies in mud and sediment. If that's true, that's also the reason why their remains are so well preserved after millions of years. And because of this extraordinary discovery, we now have a clearer view of how large dinosaurs could get during the late part of the Cretaceous period. But even though Dreadnoughtus is impressive, it still isn't the biggest giant we'll see on this list, because the next dinosaur is one of the creatures that once again sparked the debate about the true king of the prehistoric giants. Number 3, Patagotitan. There are discoveries that are the result of many years of searching, and there are also discoveries that happen purely by accident. This is how the story of Patagotitan began. In the vast plains of Patagonia in Argentina, some giant bones were suddenly noticed on a ranch. When this was reported to the paleontologists, one of the most important dinosaur excavations of modern times began. As the digging went deeper, it became even clearer that what they had found was no ordinary dinosaur. Hundreds of fossils emerged from the ground. Bones from multiple individuals were present. There were also teeth from carnivorous dinosaurs that may have roamed the same ecosystem back then. But the most important discovery was the remains of a gigantic Titanosaur that had never before been described by science. This is where the name Patagotitan was born. It comes from the word Patagonia and Titan, the giant beings from ancient Greek mythology. And for many scientists, the name is very fitting. When the news about it first came out, it quickly became the center of attention around the world. Even though the analysis of all the fossils was not yet complete, it was already clear that this was a serious candidate for the title of the largest dinosaur ever discovered. Some of the initial estimates suggested that it might exceed the length of a blue whale. But like many giant dinosaur discoveries, there were also debates. As more studies were conducted and skeletal reconstructions became more detailed, some of the numbers changed. The more recent scientific estimates usually place Patagotitan at around 100 feet long and weighing approximately 50 to 57 metric tons. Even though some of the initial estimates have decreased, it still remains among the largest animals to ever walk the earth. To help you better imagine its size, think of a creature whose thigh alone is already taller than most people. There are fossils of this creature that show a femur almost 8 feet long. That alone is enough to show how massive the body supported by its legs was. Like other titanosaurs, Patagotitan was not a predator. It was an herbivore that spent its life eating a huge amount of plants. Its long neck gave it access to wide areas of the forest without needing to move too much. During its time, Patagonia looked very different compared to today. Instead of the dry plains we know now, many parts of it back then had a greener environment, with rivers, forests, and enough vegetation to support giant animals like this one. One of the reasons why Patagotitan is important is the number of fossils found from the same place. It's not just a single bone or a part of a skeleton. The extent of the remains found gave researchers a clearer picture of how the giant titanosaurs really lived. Now, titanosaurs. However, a mystery remains. Why were so many individuals found in one place? There is a theory that suggests there may have been a series of powerful floods that buried their bodies at different times. Another possibility is that there used to be a water source in that area. If the water source dried up due to severe climate change or a prolonged drought, it's possible that the dinosaurs kept returning there until they eventually died. Until now, there is still no definite answer. But whatever really happened, the result is one of the most important fossil sites in the history of paleontology. And because of Patagotitan, the debate about the true largest dinosaur that ever lived on Earth became even more intense. But even though it's so huge, we're still not at the top of the list, because the next giant is one of the most controversial names in the world of dinosaur research. A creature that every time a new fossil is unearthed, the question is raised again about which is truly the largest animal to ever walk the earth. Number 2, Puertasaurus. What if I told you there's a dinosaur that might have a chest wider than a classroom? This isn't an exaggeration. This is why, even today, Puertasaurus remains one of the most fascinating mysteries in paleontology. What's even more surprising is that it isn't known from a complete skeleton. In fact, only very few fossils have been found. Scientists were only able to recover a few vertebrae in Patagonia, Argentina. For most people, it seems impossible to create an image of an entire dinosaur from just a few bones. But for paleontologists, each vertebra is like a piece of a blueprint. By comparing those remains with other titanosaur fossils, they gradually piece together what one of the largest animals ever to live on Earth may have looked like. It was named Puertasaurus in honor of the researchers who helped discover and study its remains. And as the analysis deepens, it becomes clearer how different it is from other giant sauropods. One of the most important discoveries was a massive vertebra from its back. Up to now, it remains among the widest vertebrae ever discovered in any sauropod dinosaur. Because of this, many scientists believe that Puertasaurus had a very wide rib cage. In other words, it was not only long or tall, its whole body was also very wide. Based on various scientific estimates, its length could reach almost 100 feet or even more. There were even some more aggressive estimates in the past. But most modern studies are more cautious in giving an exact number because fossil evidence is still lacking. This is the reason why the name Puertasaurus often comes up in debates. Before, when it came to the largest dinosaur in history, it wasn't because it was definitely number 1, but because it had so much potential based on the limited fossils that were found. If some reconstructions are correct, it could have one of the largest torsos ever seen in any land animal. Just imagine a creature with a body almost as wide as a small classroom. And all of that is supported by 4 legs that have to carry tens of tons of weight every day. Like other titanosaurs, Puertasaurus is also a herbivore. It doesn't hunt. Instead, it spent its life eating huge amounts of vegetation to support its massive metabolism. It is believed to have lived in the lush forests of late Cretaceous Patagonia, a world very different from what we see today. At that time, the climate was warmer and more humid. There were many forests, rivers, and abundant plants that served as the main food source. These were the food sources for the giant sauropods. One possible reason why these giants were so successful was their way of life. There are scientists who believe that the large titanosaurs may have moved in groups or herds. This kind of system provides extra protection against predators, especially for the young individuals. And although almost no predator could attack a healthy adult Puertasaurus, the newly hatched and young dinosaurs were not as lucky. In the same ecosystem, there were large pteropod predators that could be a threat to the weaker members of their species. But once the Puertasaurus is fully grown, its size itself serves as its defense. It doesn't need to run fast. It doesn't need to hunt. Sometimes being enormous is enough so that nothing wants to try attacking. Until now, our knowledge about the Puertasaurus remains limited because of the few fossils that have been found. But one thing is clear. If one day a more complete skeleton is found, it could once again change the list of the largest dinosaurs in history. And now we've reached the final stage of our journey. The next dinosaur is one of the most controversial and hotly debated giants in the entire world of paleontology. For some, this is truly the longest animal that ever lived. For others, there is still not enough evidence to definitively award it the crown. But one thing is certain. Our next entry is a legend in the world of dinosaurs. Number 1. Argentinosaurus. For over a century of searching for dinosaurs, one question keeps coming back again and again. What really is the largest animal that ever walked on land? Many names have been candidates, but for so many paleontologists, one name is always part of the conversation. Argentinosaurus. Interestingly, its story also began with a simple mistake. In the late 1980s in Argentina, a massive fossil was discovered on private land. At first glance, it wasn't immediately clear what it was. Some even thought it was just a piece of ancient wood that had turned to stone over time. But as more examinations and excavations were done, it became clear that what was found were bones. These came from a creature that was much larger than almost all the dinosaurs known at that time. This is where Argentinosaurus began to be recognized. Until now, its skeleton is still incomplete. But even with limited fossil evidence, the bones that have been found are enough for scientists to understand that this was truly a giant. In fact, some of its vertebrae are among the largest ever found in any land animal. Because the skeleton is incomplete, paleontologists use various scientific methods to estimate its size. They compare the discovered bones to more complete skeletons of other titanosaurs, and from there, they reconstruct the possible overall size. This is where the debate begins. Some estimates say it was over 100 feet long. Others are more conservative. Some studies also suggest a weight of over 60 metric tons, while others estimate even higher. Because of this, there is still no exact number accepted by all scientists. But there is one thing that almost no one disagrees with. Argentinosaurus is one of the largest animals to have ever lived in the entire history of Earth. Its neck could be as long as several city buses lined up together. Its feet are like stone pillars supporting a moving building. And despite its terrifying size, it was just a herbivore. Every day, it needed to eat a massive amount of plants to support its body. Just imagine how many trees, leaves, and vegetation are needed by an animal that weighs a dozen tons. Perhaps that's also why it was able to change the very environment around it. When a group of Argentinosaurus passes through a forest, they probably change the appearance of the place just by eating and moving around. But even a giant like this is not completely safe. There is evidence that some of the largest theropod predators in South America could attack young Argentinosaurus, or the weak and injured members of their species. They may not be easy prey, but they are not completely invincible either. And there's another weakness to being a giant. You can't run fast. Based on biomechanical studies, Argentinosaurus is believed to have moved more slowly compared to most smaller dinosaurs. Its size is its main defense, not its speed. But for millions of years, that was enough. The giant titanosaurs thrived and their population expanded. They dominated ancient ecosystems and became some of the most successful large animals in history. Then came the end. Around 66 million years ago, one of the largest extinction events our planet has ever experienced occurred. According to the broad scientific consensus today, a massive asteroid impact near present-day Mexico was the main cause of this disaster. This was followed by severe climate changes, loss of sunlight due to dust in the atmosphere, the collapse of food chains, and the widespread death of plants and animals. It doesn't matter how big a dinosaur was, it doesn't matter how long it ruled the Earth. When the entire planet changed, even giants like Argentinosaurus did not survive. And maybe that's the most amazing part of their story. For millions of years, nature created creatures longer than houses, heavier than many elephants, and bigger than any animal walking today. But in the end, the largest creatures that once shook the earth with every step they took were left only as bones buried beneath the rock, silent reminders of a world we will never see again.